Welcome back, everyone. Episode 40. Episode 40 of the Real Sports Science Podcast. Matt, how you feeling about that? I just
I'm
realized that just right now.
I'm feeling so excited, David. No, I,
That
I,
I
I
see it.
am. No, that 40 is massive because it's
Yo,
it's
where's your
one above
mic? Where's your
39
mic?
and oh shit. Yeah, sorry. 40's oh mate. 40's massive because it's one above 39 and it's double 20.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Wow. And it's
Oh,
10 times bigger than 4, so
yeah.
come on.
And you know, ouchies hot. No, ouchies ice. Owie hot. I can't even remember. Oh, just go back to episode 36 or 35.
Yikes.
No, 33.
Yeah. On that note, we are the Real Sports Science Podcast. We got a pretty good one coming up for you today. A little bit of a catch up, my PhD, your job, your exciting trip down to New Zealand, maybe some summer plans that we got going on, some ways or nays. So stick around for that. Who are we, Matt? Take us in.
I'm David. Oh, I've ruined it. Nah, that was a joke. I'm Matt. He's David. Episode 40. Let's go. How are you, David?
Yeah. Man. Great question. Last week, right? I moved last week. And remember how I was saying it's just an absolute disaster. Like the place is just it's still a disaster. I'm actually embarrassed of my living situation right now. The biggest nightmare that I have right now is Chris, my roommate, coming home early and just walking into this absolute den of lost hopes and dreams. Oh, dude, it's so bad. My girlfriend came over very briefly today, and before I was like, babe, I'm so sorry. It's actually embarrassing how bad it is in there. I'm set up in the kitchen right now, right? The kitchen table isn't put together. Like, the tabletop is just resting on the legs. I haven't actually screwed it in. I haven't done dishes in days. There's just the counter is so messy that I can't actually see things I need to put away. So like today I just left the milk out. Had to throw all the milk out today because it went bad because it was sat outside all day. Love that. Had to do the same thing with the yogurt the other day just because it's so messy I can't tell what needs to go in the garbage and what needs to go into the fridge, you know? It just all blends together. I've got CNP Mass XL Gainer keeping me afloat because I have no food in the house. It's
All I'm
grim.
saying is,
It's
the
grim.
listeners, just imagine, just picture the fact that he probably hasn't washed that with all the other dishes. So imagine how much old protein is in there as well.
It's just one
Mass
rinse
gainer,
out,
so you know
quick
it's
shake.
thick as
We're
well.
good to go again. It is thick. It sticks to the sides. Yeah. No, man, it's bad. The other night, I had no food. I had 2 tins of chicken soup. That's what I ate for dinner. I never stooped that low in my undergrad or my master's. It's a new level. It's a new low over here for me.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we've got an email, RSS Podcast 1 @gmail for any new applicants for my new co-host, because I will not be continuing this podcast with David. That is terrible, the situation he's got going on. So whilst he's fixing himself up and going to rehab and getting the proper help he deserves and needs, I'll be having a new co-host. Should we just get 2 new people? Should we just get our brothers on? They can carry it.
They can carry it while I figure out my life. But yeah, it's hectic. And on top of that, I am just in the midst. I am just, what's the word? Basically, I'm doing data collection at the minute, and it's just nonstop. It's an absolute
What data are you collecting?
train. All of it, Matt. I'm collecting all of it. That's the answer.
At least you don't sound stressed or anything.
Yeah. No, like,
have you?
For anyone who's done like a PhD, let me know how that was. For anyone doing a PhD or about to do a PhD, like, it's the next level, because your master's obviously is like a big step up, and you're pretty overwhelmed. Your PhD is just like the next level up, and you just feel unprepared. So I'm like big lab days, like 8 a.m. till 8 or 9 p.m. in the lab,
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 days a week. And then on the other days, it takes hours to like just email participants to like get them in, get them scheduled. Like the admin of getting participants in is just an absolute disaster. Like I need my own PA just to do that. And I've got a couple master students on my project as well, which is really good. But it also means that I need to have data for them by a specific time. So not only am
Oh,
I like on a time crunch to get people through the study, but I also am learning like V3D, which is like a biomechanical software. I have to like learn how to code and set up all my coding so that I can take the data I'm collecting and like give them results. And if I didn't have, I think it'll be good once I'm done because then it'll be done. But if I didn't have like the pressure of, not the pressure, but like the time um, deadline for my master's students, I probably like would just collect data and then figure out the analysis afterwards, you know?
yeah.
So I got that. And then I also at the end of August, I've got my annual review. So I need to write a
Ooh.
10,000 word like document for that.
That's not good. That's not fun at all.
Which is like, sorry, my nose is running, which is like a literature review, kind of an intro to my first study, methods from my first study, kind of an intro to my thesis, next steps, kind of how I see my thesis kind of coming up as I see it now. So I have to write that as well by like the second week of August, I think it has to be done.
Yeah. That's
So
that's a long day. That's a long day. I can't lie.
it's it's
It's
hectic, and it's hectic. So I think last episode we were talking about time management.
yeah. Go revisit
Today,
that one then, big
yeah,
cheese.
revisit that one. Yeah, I think today I was like, okay, I'm like gym wise, I'm gonna try to go to the gym 3 times a week. If I can go 4 times, great, but that's max. Like even if I have time to go more, I'm not going to, just because there's
Mm.
so much that I need to do. Like if I try to go all out, go to the gym 5 6 times a week, it's not going
Oh,
to work. Like
mentally you'll be so drained, eh?
oh yeah, so I think these next 2 months, like I'm just gonna have to like put my head down and just absolutely
Mm.
get after it.
So for any new listeners, what is your PhD about?
Good question. Um, so basically looking at the plantar flexors, so calf muscle, and trying to improve the knowledge around their function and how it relates to track and field. So I'm working with British Athletics and their like middle distance runners. So like calf injuries is a big problem in that group and kind of in track and field in general, especially runners and jumpers, kind of calf and Achilles problems, which go hand in hand. Yeah, so there hasn't been too much work done on the plantar flexors to understand what their function is, how like stretch shortening cycles come into play, what's the difference between like the soleus and the gastrocs, like how does their function differ, and then obviously like how does it differ between events. But the first thing that I'm doing is like understanding the function of the plantar flexors within like tests that British Athletics already does. So I'm doing 3D analysis in like a 3D volume with force plates and EMG, which is electromyography for anyone who doesn't know. So basically it records or it records the naturally occurring electrical signals within your muscles that happens when you activate your muscle. Um, I always like it's the same exact thing basically that they put on your heart, ECG, electrocardiogram to like see your heart waves, except it's not on your heart muscle, it's on any other muscle in your body. So doing that to try to get a snapshot of like how does your calf muscle function in like maximal contractions, in jumping, in running, in sprinting. How does that differ between tasks? And then how does it differ between populations as well? So I'm like recruiting one group, which is recreationally active people. So people who aren't like specifically trained for anything or aren't training specifically for anything. just like your like weekend football players, people who enjoy going for a few runs a week. And then the second group is sprinting athletes, so anyone who runs 400 meters or less, and who's done that for continuously at least for the past year, and who has like a certain standard of like PBs as well.
Okay. And then with this, where would you want your sort of findings to like how much of an impact and what sort of impact would you like your findings to make essentially? Like where do you see your research heading to?
I think this one's a pretty exciting one because I think it'll for my PhD wise, it'll definitely be kind of a backbone of like where do we go next. I have this study and my second study kind of already set. Like I know what I'm doing for my second study, and this one and that one will really determine kind of what we do in like my second and third year of my PhD in terms of studies and what like direction we really go with for my actual thesis. So that's one exciting thing that it'll just like kind of be a backbone of my PhD. I think it's really cool. Is like I don't think anyone's really done what I'm doing yet as well, so I think I'll be able to get some really cool publications out of it. And then secondly, I think it will inform at least a portion of how British athletics or Loughborough athletics assesses calf muscle function, especially calf muscle strength. Like I'll explain it briefly. Like right now, what they do for calf muscle strength, or like if anyone listening who knows the word isometric strength, like maximal force that you can exert against a non-moving object. Yeah. So you do that with like having an immovable bar, like an immovable squat bar on your back, and you like just like calf raise as hard as you can, single leg or double leg. I'm doing it single leg. So they do that.
How come you're doing it single leg?
I'm doing it because I found that when you do it double leg, especially for non-active individuals, the limiting factor actually becomes their like core or their traps. Like they can't take the pressure of like the pressure going through their core that they need to stabilize, like putting the force into the bar.
When they've got that sort of double power essentially, so when you break it down halfway.
Yeah, so I found like when we do single-legged stuff, the limiting factor more becomes the force you can exert from your calf muscles instead of like I can't push any harder because it feels like my spine's going to snap or like it really hurts on my traps. So that's the reason. And also it's just interesting because nothing's done double-legged in running events. As far as I've seen. so yeah, just being like we're not really looking at left-right differences, but I think I've already kind of seen some interesting things with left and right differences because we're doing two different types of like calf raises, isometric calf raises. One's the standing one, where it's like there's quite a few degrees of freedom with that because like your ankle can move, your knee can move, your hip can move. You can kind of like push the bar up as well with your shoulders, kind of, you know. And then there's another one that we've got a rig built by the school where like a person sits in this rig with their knees totally straight against like pushing against a board, so their knees aren't moving, their hips aren't moving, and we kind of like we trap them in like this so that there's less movement and really everything's coming from their plantar flexors, and then they're pushed up against a force plate, and then they try to like plantar flex or calf raise against the force plate, but they're kind of in this awkward like 30-degree sitting like that, and they're all strapped in.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's been really interesting actually because some people, when they do the seated one, which is like more controlled, there'll be a big left-right difference. Like their left-right leg will be way weaker than their right leg. But then when we get them into the standing one, where there's more degrees of freedom, they're the same. They're able to produce the same force on their right leg than they are their left leg.
Has that got anything to do with angle? No, not of the pronation angle. I just remember doing that at school. At
Yeah,
school?
pronation.
At uni. What school did I
Yeah.
go to?
I mean, yeah, like pronation angle does affect, and as you like go through different ranges of motion, the pronation angle will change because obviously like your muscles lengthening or shortening. But we have the ankle angle is the same in both of them, so it wouldn't be a difference between ankle angle between the two setups. So I don't know why, but like who knows, maybe it's because the controlled one, and this is like purely like I have no evidence to back this up yet, but maybe that the first seated one is really controlled, and so really everything is coming from the plantar flexors. So if there is a difference between left and right, you'll see it. But then in the standing one, maybe they can kind of wiggle their way to more force with the left foot and kind of compensate in different areas, without them really even knowing it. I don't know. Maybe not at all,
Yeah.
It could be just because the unfamiliarity of like this weird sitting calf raise kind of thing while you're all strapped and not that comfortable. Maybe that just like accentuates a really small, insignificant left-right difference. I don't know, but
It's interesting.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
What was you asked me a question and we totally went off track. What was the question?
I think it was where do you hope this like research like not how big of an impact, but like where do you see
Yeah.
research like?
Yeah, the one question that I'm really, really interested in is when like British athletics or Loughborough athletics do, or anyone really does, like standing calf raise tests for running, they do it slightly plantar flexed, right? So you have your foot flat on the floor, you try to get the bar into a position where you can lift up your heel minimally, right, off the ground as you try to like drive your balls of your feet into the ground. But you're still like kind of plantar flexed. And when I look at running, and when I've looked at like some studies that looked at like moments and forces around the ankle, the highest moments and forces happen pretty dorsiflexed, it seems. Like when you run and you hit, you're actually pretty dorsiflexed. Like it's not active dorsiflexion, but it's your calves like trying to stop your shin from going like that, right? And your knees to go more over your toes. They're trying to stop that action to go back the other way. But most of the action of running actually happens in way more dorsiflexion than plantar flexion. So I'm really interested to see what kind, like you have this is way longer than I was anticipating, but like at your ankle you have X amount of range of motion, right? Like you have 100% of your dorsiflexion range and you have 100% of your plantar flexion range. For everyone who doesn't know what that is, like dorsiflexion pulling your toes up towards you, plantar flexion pointing your toes away. So say you have 100% of those, right? But what percentage of both of those do you actually use when you run?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So is that like
are you?
I was just going to ask, so like could a theory be like, say you could be utilizing more of your range of motion in running? Could that, how could that affect performance in a way?
Maybe. The way that I'm interested in it right now is like, say we use when you run, you use 120% of your active dorsiflexion range, right? So you have the range of like how much you can pull your toes up, and actually you go a little bit further when you run because of gravity, and you're actually getting pushed further, right? So let's say you use 120% of your dorsiflexion range, but you only use like 75% of your plantar flexion range. And the moment where during like your running gait, the moment where peak force happens is actually while you're dorsiflexed. If that's the case, does this make sense? If that's the
Yeah.
case,
I'm
if
just
you're
watching. Yeah.
yeah, if max force happens while you're actually dorsiflexed, why are we testing athletes for maximal force abilities in a setup that has them plantar flexed?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like if the strongest that we need to be is in a dorsiflex position, then we should probably test there as well. Like yeah, because it doesn't matter how
Okay.
strong we are when we're up on our toes, because we need to be stronger in a different position.
I was thinking of it as in a different angle in terms of running economy and how efficient we are using those degrees of freedom. But yeah, that's actually a really good point.
Mm.
Yeah, why do we test if that is the case? Why do we test it? That is quite interesting, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, like a bicep curl. Like if I need to be strong in this position, why are we testing in this position? Because we know that the strength will be different in those two positions. So we should be testing as close as possible to like where we need that strength, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm really interested
Okay.
to see what I think. Like we're gonna get so much data from it, which is exciting,
Yeah, it
but
should be
it just
amazing. Yeah.
means I need to deal with all the data. It's just, which is which hey, that's
Bit frustrating. Yeah.
my girlfriend today. I was like just telling her of how much I had to do and how like so much of it I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just like trying to figure it out on YouTube and stuff. And she's like, "Well, that's what a PhD is." I
Yeah.
was like, "Thanks, babe. You're right. You're
Cheers.
right."
That's so good.
Yeah,
That's so good.
yeah,
Um, oh,
yeah.
fair. That was actually quite interesting. That was not planned at all. That was actually
No,
really decent.
no.
But yeah,
Yeah,
and
but I
then
guess we haven't talked about it. Because we started the podcast kind of when I was starting and you're starting, so
yeah,
haven't really
and
talked
then
about too much of it.
one thing we did mention last week is time management, and we like to be honest with our listeners, and we've got a little plan coming up on summer, that would hopefully make this more beneficial for you guys instead of more all over the place, which if we didn't plan it could definitely have been. So obviously David and I'll be in New Zealand and David will be here, and that means I'm 11 hours ahead. I think we said didn't I? We're at
I think
11
so.
hours. Um,
Yeah, I think it's something
and
like that.
then I'll quickly just have a little gander now.
Which honestly probably wouldn't be. It's actually not too bad. 11 hours, because it's just
Yeah,
like 9, 8, easy.
yeah, true. But it's just going to be hectic because when the training times with the guys over there is probably 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. And just like
Just all
our
day
stuff will
long.
definitely crash. Yeah,
Yeah.
it will just will definitely clash. So yeah, we've got something in store for you guys. That's all we'll say now, I guess. Is we got a plan that will make it incredibly fun with lots and lots and different bits of content. So not just podcast or short little videos. We've got an array of like a multitude of different bits of content. It's gonna be so good.
Yeah,
It's
it'll be
gonna be nice
interesting.
and
I think.
juicy.
Yeah, it'll be cool how we can kind of do it over the summer. But yeah, looking forward to it. But
Yeah.
have you thought like, are you getting excited for it? Because you're leaving
Oh,
what in
I'm
5 weeks?
yeah, I'm thoroughly getting excited because right now I've got pre-season that's starting with Tunbridge Judgeons, so I'm
Mm.
preparing for that. So I'm there for the first 2 weeks of it, the good little bit of testing and blasting, and then I'm off to New Zealand, which is actually going to be like so. I spoke to. Here's a little insight. I spoke to this head of performance and like a doctor at Cambridge Rugby who are now playing champ, and one thing he mentioned was player availability is a big thing, and that's something that when reflecting upon the last season I had with Thomas Juddians, is something that players get injured obviously, but then is there anything we can do to prevent some of those injuries? And our S&C coaches sometimes pushing their players too hard in the gym and not getting much out of them when they're on the field because they're injured anyways. So like one thing he said is like player availability towards the end of the season. It's all good getting these guys as powerful as possible and as strong as possible, but if they're injured, because
Mm.
you're sending them that way, how good is? I'd rather have a team that is healthy and can play week in week out rather than someone who's can bench like 170 for 3 reps but is always having sore shoulders. Like what
Mm.
good is the strongest injured player in the world? You
Mm.
wouldn't want that. So I'm definitely excited to see how a professional setup handles this, and I'm excited to see what strategies they put in place to combat that, and any training methods. Like I know some S&C coaches focus a lot, and this is anecdotally, I've been told this. A lot of S&C coaches have have focused on sprint training and like speed drills and speed development outside the gym, but have never really focused on say like hamstring management, hamstring strength management. So the players aren't doing any sort of hamstring exercises, eccentric loaded exercises, but then they're always injured because their hamstrings can't actually take the load that's being imposed on them when they're trying to decelerate, or when they're trying to accelerate from a standing position and try fly off their right leg. Their hamstring can't manage that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting if how they use that sort of stuff there and how they train their players in a professional setup.
It's so interesting too because you have like off season and in season, and so like how does your priorities as an S&C coach differ between the two? Because I think in your off season you can
Mm.
definitely push like strength
Oh,
more and all that
100%,
kind of
yeah.
stuff, and because you don't have to worry about like player availability. But then yeah, like you
Mm.
said, like you're not. I don't know. At least when I played hockey, it was like off season was try to build strength and get as strong as you possibly could and in shape as possible for the beginning of the year or before training camp. Because once training camp starts, once the season starts, all you do in the gym is try to maintain as best you can. Because like you
What
will lose strength, you'll lose power as the season goes on, just because you don't have energy and time, because your energy and time needs to go into like performance. You know.
and this is a conversation that we can definitely develop into a future podcast with hopefully a highly experienced S&C coach. I've seen from the other side as well. He says some S&C coaches go, well, what's the point, like of just trying to maintain during a season? And I was on that side as well, in the sense like you're just trying to manage injuries. You're trying to manage
Mm.
and reduce injury risk. That's the point of in season. You're trying to maintain as much strength as they can. But other S&C coaches say, no, 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 get them to that stage, keep hitting, keep going up. There's no point having that sort of intent where you're just looking to maintain. You want to still be reaching those next levels. And I'll try find the person who said that, actually, because I saw it on LinkedIn
That's really
where they were
interesting.
pretty vocal about it. But I sort of like the way he spoke about it. I was like, maybe he's onto something there, but I just don't know. So it'll be good. I'm still on the fence with that one. So it'll be good to
Mm.
hopefully get someone on to develop that or spark that conversation the next step further.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it
no,
would be interesting to see what like where he's coming from at that, because maybe
mm,
maybe he's had conversations where people like really kind of pamper and like no heavy lifts and all that kind of stuff. I think it's like, but like if the ins, and I guess maybe it depends on the sport as well.
here's
Like
one thing I've
for
got to notice:
what's that?
sports science, S&C, physio. No matter what you say or what you do, there are so many billions of other factors you've got to consider when hearing something from someone else. In the sense that, like,
Mm.
someone came up to me and said, "Oh, um, I'm gymming and all of this, but I'm not losing weight." It's like, "Oh, have you been doing this? Have you been doing that?" And then it's all hearsay. Are they actually doing it? And then, holy smokes, it's like a rabbit hole. Every conversation you have in S&C, it's difficult. I'm getting
Yeah,
tired, mate. Just I want to be a
I know.
banker. I want to be a banker.
I want to be a
I
banker.
want to be like my
It
dad and
is
be a banker.
so interesting. Is
Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of conversations that as a sports scientist that I've realized that you can answer with "it depends."
Mm.
Like you can make a career of answering questions with "it depends,"
Yeah.
which in one way is really nice, because you can't, like, as long as you're just say "it depends" and then say, well, this and that and this and that, you can't say anything wrong. Like, it's
Yeah,
impossible.
yeah. But
On
some
the other
people want
side,
that
it's really
answer.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, exactly, and like obviously, if you're like a sports or like an S&C coach, and your job is to make someone better, but there's all these you know, and some coach like, hey, we got this player and he needs to be available for this. Like, can we do it? And your answer is like, well, maybe. I don't know.
But that's the
You
thing.
know?
That's when you need more access to the players in a way. You need to be more controllable over the players to an extent. I understand, but you will never be able to have that. So it's difficult. So yeah, you're managing them, you're managing yourself, but it's fun. One thing I'd love to
Well, I
do
guess
though
you're.
is sorry. Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like one thing I'd love to do. So obviously I'm going out to New Zealand and looking at that performance aspect to see it in an elite setting what it's like. But I also like the aspect of like athletics because athletics you can really make sure people peak at the most opportune times for that one big competition that they've got. Whereas rugby, you've got like I don't know, or basketball, you've got like 40, 50 games a season. So you can't really you've got like a off period of 4 weeks or a week and a bit, a month and a bit, where you can actually make them the strongest possible. But then, are you really allowing them to reach their peak? So it's a nice little bit of
Yeah.
can't think of the
It is
word.
interesting though. It is interesting though because, like, man, athletics is such a minefield with events, and every event is just so different. Like for running events,
Got it.
I think
Please
yeah,
invite
you
Ian
can
Whey.
you def you
So I'm trying to
you
pause
can.
it. Big Siri or whatever was listening to me, and they just started playing
Oh,
Tion
dude,
Wayne.
that's so annoying when Siri just comes up. Like I wasn't talking to you, you know, not you, Siri.
Oh, sorry, sorry, David.
No, but like I've been learning just the absolute minefield that different events are and how every event just has a totally different like needs analysis. Like you were talking about peaking, and I was talking about this with my girlfriend and a couple other runners as well. Well, I was talking to a couple of the athletes who were on the training camp that I was on, and we were talking about like Europeans and worlds and all this kind of stuff, and she was saying, yeah, like next year is Europeans, but there's also the Olympics. So most runners who are going to the Olympics won't do Europeans because they want to peak for the Olympics. And then I was talking to my girlfriend about that, and she's like, "Oh yeah, pole vault's not like that, because I like it. It's not as because the demands are different. Like you can really peak for running physiologically,
Mm.
but for pole vault, it's not as like
More
aerobic
technical.
or anaerobic like demanding. You know, it's more technical. Like you can kind of go out like week on week and do comps, or like every other week, and then maybe you have a couple weeks off before a big comp. But it's very different. So that's one thing, and then the other thing, I think that the only reason why it's not like you can only you can peak for like your one comp that you need to do well in is because you need to qualify for that comp.
Yeah, that's the
So
difficult
like
part.
so
Yeah.
like yeah, so like for worlds, um the British trials for worlds is British champs. I'm not sure if it is for all events, but I know for sure for running, and maybe not pole vault, because pole vault you just have to have, I think, like done the um done the standard. But for running, I know for running events, at least middle distance, British champs is like the world trials for it. So if you want to run at worlds, you have to compete at British champs. And so that means like to have a shot at worlds, you need to be running well at British champs, which is
Yeah.
like a month, like 4 weeks before worlds.
Very fair.
So and sometimes like selection happens like the day after an event for like an event that happens in like a week and a half. So
Okay.
you need to be primed and ready to go to run like the race of your life for this event, so that you have a chance to go to this bigger event that happens in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So in that case, it's
Oh,
like you can't peak for both, or you have
oh,
to be able
true.
to like peak like for a longer period, or make
Peak and
sure
then
that you get the
maintain.
minimum. Yeah, or yeah, I don't know, whatever.
That's
But
hectic.
yeah,
Yeah, it'd be interesting to have
it's
someone
just
on. It'll be interesting to have someone
we'll
on that's
definitely
yeah.
definitely need to,
And
yeah.
then yeah.
But Matt, I think it's so exciting. I think when we started this like podcast, obviously we were right at the start of like two really exciting things. And I think now is like we're getting into it. We have like
Yeah,
obviously
yeah.
you're learning more. You have all these questions, but also all this like experience behind you. I feel like this summer will be sweet, and then on October or like when you're back from New Zealand, I think like even the chats that we can have will be so much
Oh
better
yeah.
because like we'll be in like maybe the next step of our learning, or we just have so much experience behind us that like we get to talk about, and like
Yeah.
probably even more questions,
That's the thing, yeah,
which
and we'll be more
which will be
confident
cool.
in a way.
Yeah,
Um,
but speaking about questions, I think it's time for Way or Nay.
oh yeah. Sorry, while we're getting into Way or Nay, I've been
Yeah.
giggling to the side whilst just because I see the little camera. David, you look like a giant compared to me. I look like a little peanut in the corner. I've just realized this,
Bro,
and
I've I know you did need to like either like tilt your camera down or sit up.
I've just ate
Yeah,
like
that's
Super
better.
Mario. I've just eaten a mushroom and now I'm bigger.
Yeah. All of the reels from this one will just be like me full frame and you just like
I'll just be looking
just your head
tiny
down in the
as bro.
bro. Bro.
But
Um
but yeah. So my first way or nay, I'll ask you first, David. Way
okay.
or nay? You're turning up for a leg session. So no, actually, let me start that again. You go into the gym and you see someone doing a leg session with a vest on, like any vest actually, any vest, like a string vest or even a normal vest, and it's hot and or cold, hot or cold. What are you saying? As in, like, if the weather doesn't matter, are they allowed to wear the vest? That's a
For
big question,
legs.
bro.
For
Yeah.
legs.
Are you allowed to wear a vest doing legs?
There was a do you remember when bro science was a big thing?
Mate,
Well, I'm pretty sure
when
he is still huge.
he is the
But
best. He was the best. This is where I got half my master's stuff was all on him. I
he did
remember the
one
video.
episode of like the. Do you remember that? Yeah, yeah. He's like, oh, shoulder. I don't care how small you are. You do in a vest because at some point in the workout, you're gonna have the best shoulder pump of your life, and you're gonna look huge. And then it
Mate,
comes to
why,
leg. He's like, I don't care what you wear for legs. Who cares? No
mate?
one
But
cares.
I remember the one video
Wear a
as
bed
well. Like
sheet.
this one video I was stuck with forever. It was how to skip legs, and he goes, "So you're gonna get over, goes to leg extension, starts curling it, and he goes, he does like a little skit where he goes, someone asks him, "Are you gonna do legs today?" He goes, "Oh mate, can't do legs. It's actually the vertical equinox, wrong side of the moon. I can't do legs today. Actually, that's a shame." Then starts hitting arms. Oh, he was good.
That's
He
where
was
you
good.
got that's where you got all of your excuses from to get out of legs.
Yeah, mate.
That's
Oh,
so funny.
he actually did some great stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
I need to watch some of it
I
again.
don't care. I don't care. I'm not a huge fan of the stringer vests anyways. I think they're a little ridiculous. Like
But what, you don't like the
no
little
one
nipples when they pop out?
no one needs to see the nip slips. It's
The
not
little
even nip
nips?
slips. Like if we're
That's
lucky it
whole
goes
nip.
over the nipple for a
Yeah.
whole movement.
Yeah. So we're saying no vests on legs.
Hey, like do what you got to do, but I wouldn't choose to wear a vest on
Yeah.
legs. Unless like I would wear a regular vest if it was really hot maybe.
Do you wear
That's
long
fine.
shorts or short shorts when doing legs?
Regular
Like
shorts?
if you had to choose, right? Basketball shorts or
Oh no. But
yeah.
I never wear basketball shorts anyway, but not
Okay,
like
sort of
rugby shorts that like do a movement too wrong and go too far down in your squat and
what rugby shorts?
got a
What do you mean?
got a couple friends popping out the bottom.
What rugby shorts? What? Don't know what you're talking about. I play rugby.
They're
Um,
ridiculous.
at terrible
And now
level.
now my go to is the like shorts above the knee. And they can be like a bit further above the knee, but then I'll always wear like base layers underneath that like go longer.
Fake athlete. This guy.
Bro,
Base layers underneath. What are you squatting? 300? Stop. Stop. All right.
on each
But
side.
yeah, I agree. I agree with that way or nay. What's your way or nay?
Yeah. My way or nay, I put this out. Um, more of a sports science one, or science, I guess. Way or nay, I'm not overweight. I'm just big boned.
Oh, mate, I was gonna... Sorry. Oh no, stop. Um, yeah, actually, to be fair, that's my reaction. That's my reaction. There you go. I was actually going to say a couple things, but nah, that reaction says it all. Nah,
uh,
don't, don't, just don't say it. Like,
don't. I read this question on the line, and I was like, obviously, I had the same reaction, but I was like, I've actually never read anything about that. You know, like people have more dense bones, but if you're like the reason that you're overweight isn't because you have dense bones or big bones. You know what I mean? And and I read a paper about it. I just googled it, found a couple papers, seemed from reputable sources, and actually, this is interesting. To a point, because like the more weight you have, obviously, the more weight your bones have to like um, support. So the idea would be actually, as you put on more weight, your bones get stronger, which to a point they do. To a point, though, once you get like overweight and unhealthily obese, actually your bones can become more brittle because the cells that create bones, osteoblasts, they're called, or
yeah,
osteocytes, they get replaced by um, fat cells. And so when you get to like an overweight, like obese to like unhealthily overweight, your bones actually are at greater risks for breaking and
yeah,
becoming brittle and weak and less dense because you have less actually like the cells that create more bone because it gets
mate.
taken over by lymphocytes, which are fat cells.
So in
So
essence, you're lying, my bro.
you're
Stop
lying, bruv.
eating, you big fatty. Nah, mate, I've had a long
Where did
day.
that come from?
Oh,
Jeez.
deep down, deep down. Just for reference, I got hit in the head by my Hoover today, so I've lost my head. Very, very mad at everyone and everything in this world. Nah,
That's funny.
yeah, but like, don't because don't. I hate excuses like that. I hate it
Mm,
to an
yeah,
extent, but like, it's like everyone's got an excuse like that in that sense. Do you know what I mean? So like, stop. No, you're not. You can
yeah,
do this. Let's get rolling.
yeah.
That
Let's get
wasn't.
rolling.
Wow, why'd you say rolling, David? Why'd you say rolling, David? Caught in 4K, David. Hmm? Hmm?
That's ridiculous. No, and it is too bad. I think some people do find themselves in positions that they don't know how they got into, and it is really sad. And I can't imagine what that's like. Like I struggle
I'm looking.
now. Like
Just not
with
even looking at me. I-
no, no.
My guy was like
I'm
this. My guy
yeah.
was like this.
I was. Yeah, I was really enjoying it as well. I found a pretty good position here, just staring out the window. No, but I think like people can get into positions where they do become overweight, and it's really debilitating, and it's really scary, and maybe they're embarrassed and they feel overwhelmed and they don't know where to start, and so we're not trying to like be like, oh, like you're not big bone, like get a hold of yourself, because I think it's really really difficult, you know.
No,
But
100%. And one
but
thing I want to say is I got massive admiration for the people who actually um, get started. No, but David, like, I've got massive admiration for like people whenever I'm like driving or whenever I'm walking and I see someone like who's reasonably large actually running or making an effort in the gym. It's like at first I'm like, oh bloody hell, and then at second I'm like, fair play to them, because to put yourself out there must be so much harder for me to do that. You know, it's a whole different story
yeah,
me walking into gym than them. They're already getting judged, they're already getting looked. So fair play, and I love to see it and just continue on that journey. And the hardest step is to start, but please just bloody start, because it's not healthy
yeah,
to be like that. It's healthy to be um, less like that. Mate, me with the terminology, but no, it's not healthy to
no,
be
you're
overweight, to be
absolutely right.
obese.
Yeah, it isn't healthy. Like we know the side effects that it brings. We know the increased risk for cardiovascular disease, for cancer, for a whole type of different diabetes as well. Like increase of morbidity just skyrockets. So yeah, absolutely. But but the facts are nay, you are not overweight because you are big boned.
Mate, I could die for a Mackey's though.
Yeah,
A little Big
it's
Mac,
just good,
sweet
isn't it?
chili wrap. But yeah,
I've been,
nah.
yeah.
Jokes aside, way or nay.
Let us know. Let us know. Way or nay. What first one? Can you wear a stringer vest or a vest in general if you do legs? Way or nay. This phrase is I'm not overweight. I'm big boned. Way or nay. We've got a couple responses. Most of them agree. Actually, all of them agreeing with what we're saying.
Way or
Um,
nay, can you be friends with someone who, so say you're at your mate's house, say you're at Hayden's house, and Hayden like makes himself some toast, and he cuts his like toast or like sandwich into triangle pieces and takes the crust off. Can you still be friends with that man?
nay.
Okay,
Nay.
cool.
I'm dipping out.
Let's see if I can think of another ones. Yeah, no, same here. If Ewan, right, we know Ewan on this podcast very well. If Ewan turned up, actually, to be fair, half of me thinks he may do this.
If
He might be
Ewan
listening
turned
now
up with triangle sandwiches to our
on the
next
walk.
hike up Snowdon, I'd be like, yeah, those are Ewan sandwiches. I
Yeah,
wouldn't be surprised at all.
I just look at him and be like, when did
That's
you
if we make
just?
it. If we make it and you don't
Yeah, true.
send us over a cliff again.
Nah, that was fun, bro. It's experiences, life experiences.
True. 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 Yeah.
Oh, let me think of another way or nay. Actually, I'm trying to think of fun ones that aren't gym related, but like, oh, say if your friend turns up to the gym and you're gonna do a gym session together, and he's wearing socks that go up to like his just below the knee.
Uh, that's an ick. That is an ick, isn't it? Like, hey,
Nay.
nay,
Yeah.
ick.
What if
Unless it's
you?
for some medical, unless it's for some medical reason, or he's,
Yeah,
or
because
he's
he's being too soft.
or he's like an ultra marathon runner.
You
You can
better
do
be
if you
packing
run
some
yeah,
concrete in
yeah,
them.
yeah. If you're a marathon runner or sorry, a ultra marathon runner and you're running north of 75 miles,
Way or
I'm
nay,
not
David
telling you.
Goggins turns up to be the usher at your wedding. Or what do they call them? Vicar? No, what? Wait, what? What do they call the people at your wedding? The one that goes, and do you take this person to be this person? I
Oh
do. Who's the
yeah,
person?
yeah, yeah, yeah. The consummate.
Okay, here's a good question, fun little question. Any person in this world, alive or dead, to be the umpire? No, what is it? Person who
I think it's
announces.
consummate or something like that.
That was the master of ceremonies.
Oh, that's definitely not what I said.
That's a wedding.
Who would you have? Anyone in the world, alive or dead,
Yeah.
to to do your wedding?
First answer is Joe Rogan, just so then I could be like, look, after this, mate. Right, just after this, can we
We'd
do a
have the
podcast
we'd
together?
have the mics up. We'd have the mics like already
Yeah.
there. I'd pop
Uh,
out of nowhere.
I
Yeah,
think actually David
before like this
Goggins.
is like David Goggins.
I would. Imagine how
Terrible. He'd be
sick that wedding would be.
it wouldn't. It wouldn't. It wouldn't. He would make everyone work
Stay
out,
hard,
and the workout would would never end. Because
mate.
you gotta
Look,
carry the boats.
do you know
Who's
what?
gonna carry the boats?
The love between us both after we'd be married would be just staying hard, mate. It would not be ending because it's such a strong bond by the strongest person in this world. Or it'd be Bruce Buffer. I like Bruce
I would say. I
Buffer.
would say Ed Sheeran because then he could do the music as well. Little 2 for 1.
Shock. By the way, guys, David sings as well. Don't know if you noticed with his earpiece, fancy earpiece. He's a singer. That's why I chose Ed Sheeran. Mate, your love's not staying hard. Your love's not going to survive the boats and the logs, mate. David,
I don't
it's
need
not.
boats at my wedding, man. I'm doing a dry wedding on land.
Oh
No
yeah,
boats required.
your wedding is going to be dry when I've got Jordan Belfort turning up to my wedding. That's the guy from Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know. I'm trying to think of other people that would be brilliant.
I think it'd be funny. I want like someone like Kevin Hart to do it
Yeah,
because it
true.
would just be hilarious. But then I don't know if it would be too much because then it would just become like a Kevin Hart show and not my wedding. But then who cares?
See?
Kevin Hart's doing a
Yeah.
show. Sick.
Oh, my dog.
Or you get someone that would just be like hilariously awkward, like uh oh, what's his name? Oh, what's his name in Superbad? The
Oh, what,
guy who looks
McLovin?
like he just no,
Oh,
no. The
oh,
guy who always looks
Michael,
like he's just like
Michael,
accidentally turned up to set, like he's lost.
Jonah Hill.
No, not Jonah Hill. The other guy.
Right,
I think you were just
Michael,
about to say it.
Michael
Yeah,
Checker
yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that. Michael Cera.
Yeah,
Oh,
imagine him like
shock.
playing.
Canadian actor. Stop it,
Is
David.
it
Are you
actually?
Canadian? Yeah.
Come
Oh, pretending like he doesn't know.
on. Yeah. Imagine him showing up to your wedding, like doing it, just like playing the role that he plays in Superbad, just like really, really awkward.
Final way or nay? Way
Okay,
or nay?
final
And this
one.
is just for the listeners. This is just for the listeners. Way or nay? This podcast. If we get a couple nays, I'm ending it.
He's going to New Zealand. He's never coming back. Yeah.
Never.
Let us know though, way or nay this podcast. If you like it, we really appreciate it. Let us know that you do. Let us know where you're listening from. Let us know your answers to the way or nay. If you haven't already, subscribe to us on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, let us know what you think in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram. We got an exciting summer coming up. We got exciting stuff with CMP coming up as well. So I'm David. He's Matt. This is episode 40 of the Real Sports Science Podcast. Matt, take us out.
This is like Michael Buffer. This
Yeah.
has been the RSS podcast. We're out.